I met Daniel when I was 24 and he was 27. We were both broke, ambitious, and wildly optimistic in the way only people in their 20s can afford to be. He had just left his accounting job to start a digital marketing agency with his best friend. I was in my second year of working retail by day and designing logos at night, praying someone would finally take my portfolio seriously. We were hungry for success, for recognition, for stability. But more than anything, we were hungry for someone who believed in us before the winds came in. And that's what we were to each other. Believers. Daniel believed I was going to have my own design studio one day. I believed he was going to build an agency that would disrupt the industry. We weren't rich, we weren't even stable, but we had big ideas and soft hearts, and it felt like we were building something real, from scratch. He moved into my apartment 6 months after we started dating, not because we were ready, but because he couldn't afford rent anymore. We slept on a mattress on the floor, ate 3 for $5 frozen dinners, and shared one rickety laptop to apply for gigs. And we were happy. We had post-it notes on the bathroom mirror with little goals. Land a $1,000 client, get 10,000 followers, buy a couch. We made homemade cocktails on Friday nights and pretended we were more successful than we were. When things got hard, missed invoices, client rejections, late fees, we didn't turn on each other. We turned inward. We problem-solved, reassured, held hands through breakdowns. I remember once, he came home after getting rejected from a startup incubator. He looked completely defeated. I made us pancakes at midnight, played his favorite album, and told him, "You're not failing, you're building." And he smiled like I'd just reminded him how to breathe. In our little world, love wasn't grand gestures or getaways. It was helping each other stretch the rent. It was staying up all night editing pitch decks. It was printing business cards from a borrowed printer and dancing around the living room like we'd won the lottery. We weren't planning a wedding. We were planning an empire. I truly thought, this is it. This is the kind of partnership people spend lifetimes looking for. No fancy rings, no Instagram perfect moments, just two people showing up for each other. Every day. So I didn't mind waiting. When our friends started getting engaged, I didn't push. When my mother asked, "Is he ever going to propose?" I laughed it off, because I believed I already had something better than a ring. I had a man who told me I was his muse, who said I made him believe in himself, who once told me, half asleep, "I want our kids to have your laugh." How could I ask for more? 6 years. I gave 6 years to this man. Through his lowest moments, his ugliest tantrums, his quiet depressions, and his ambitious highs. And I wasn't keeping score, because I thought we were building something together, something that would last, something that would end in forever. I never pressured him to propose. Not once. I wasn't the girl who left engagement ring pictures open on her laptop. I didn't drop hints or set ultimatums. When friends joked, "When's the wedding?" I always laughed and said, "When we both feel ready." Because I truly believed he just needed time. Time to feel secure in his music career. Time to prove to himself that he could make it before making a lifelong commitment. And if I'm honest, I was proud of that. Proud that I wasn't the clingy girlfriend. Proud that I gave him space to grow. I told myself I was being patient, supportive, loving. But now I see it for what it was. Denial. The signs were small at first. He stopped saying we and started saying I. We used to plan summers together, festivals, road trips, songwriting retreats, but the last 2 years, his plans didn't include me unless I asked. He used to send me half-written verses at 2 a.m. with notes like, "Tell me what this line needs." I loved being his editor, his sounding board. It made me feel like I was part of the dream. Then, they stopped coming. He said he wanted to create without too many voices in his head. I said I understood. Because I thought that was love, letting someone have their silence. He pulled away in stages, first emotionally, then physically. The cuddles became brief, the conversations turned surface level. He started saying good night before I even got into bed. But when I asked if something was wrong, he always smiled and said, "No, babe. Just tired. Just trying to get my head straight." So I believed him, because I wanted to. Because believing him was easier than facing what I feared. That the man I had held through failure was now drifting away at the edge of success. The breaking point wasn't loud. It wasn't a fight or a betrayal or a tearful confession. It was a Tuesday night. He came home from a small showcase in Brooklyn, one I didn't go to because he said it was just industry people. He sat on the couch, quiet for a while, then said, "Lena, I think I need space to figure out who I am outside of us." I blinked. We had just celebrated our 6th anniversary a month ago. He bought me a bracelet, wrote "Here's to forever" in the card. And now he needed space? I asked him what space meant. He said, just some time, a reset, not a breakup. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I nodded, because I still believed he would come back. That he just needed to miss me, to remember what we were. Because that's what happens when love is real, right? They come back. I gave him everything he asked for. I didn't text, I didn't call, I didn't beg, I journaled, I ran more. I told friends I was giving him space to breathe. But deep down, I was counting the days. 1 week, 2, 4, still no word, until one of our mutual friends tagged him in a photo. A beach, a drink, a girl. She had bright orange hair and freckles and a sunflower tattoo on her thigh. Her hand was on his knee. His head was tilted toward her like he already belonged there. The caption read, "Writers, retreat with the best souls." Her name was Violet. And just like that, I stopped being his piece and started being his past. I didn't confront him right away. I stared at the photo on my screen for a long time, letting it blur, letting my mind scramble for an explanation that didn't hurt as much as the obvious one. "It's just a friend." She probably grabbed his knee for the picture. Maybe he told her about me, but I knew better. The way he smiled in that photo, soft, leaning in, unguarded, it was the kind of smile he hadn't given me in over a year. And that was the part that broke me first. A week later he texted me, "Hey, can we talk sometime soon?" I said yes, because I was still hoping for closure, or honesty, or maybe even an apology. We met at a park bench we used to sit at during the early days when we couldn't afford brunch, so we brought bagels and watched pigeons. This time there were no bagels, no pigeons, just Evan, standing awkwardly, that hands in his pockets like a stranger rehearsing bad news. He sat beside me, didn't make eye contact, and said, "I wanted you to hear it from me, before it spreads." My chest tightened. Her name is Violet. Well, we've been seeing each other. It just happened. Just happened. Like spilling coffee. Like missing a train. Not like choosing someone. Not like replacing someone. But that's what he had done. He said he met her at a songwriting retreat in Maine. Said she was wild and radiant, and had a way of seeing beauty in every broken thing. "She reminds me of the part of myself I lost," he said. "She inspires me." I almost laughed. Because for 6 years I had been the one picking him up after failed gigs, feeding him encouragement when the music dried up, loving him even when he didn't love himself. But she reminded him who he was. I didn't ask the questions burning in my throat. How long have you been seeing her? Did you sleep with her before you told me you needed space? Did I mean anything? Or was I just the background noise to your becoming? But I didn't ask, because I was afraid of the answers, because somewhere deep down, I already knew. He said, "I didn't plan for this, it just felt right." I nodded. What else was I supposed to do? Throw 6 years at his feet like broken glass? Scream about all the dinners, the nights I held him through failure? The birthdays spent supporting his dreams while putting mine on hold? He was already gone. He hadn't found himself. He had just found someone easier to love, or at least someone who didn't know the parts of him that made me cautious. For the next few weeks, I existed in silence. People asked if we were still together. I said, "It's complicated." Friends invited me out. I declined. My mother said, "You always gave too much." But even that felt wrong. Because I didn't regret giving. I regretted believing it would matter. Then came the final crack. He posted a song online, his first solo release in over a year. It was raw, beautiful, full of metaphors about freedom, wildflowers, and falling into the unexpected. And in the video, she was there. Violet, spinning barefoot in a sunflower field, laughing like the world had never hurt her. It had been 3 months. 3. And he was writing love songs for her. Songs I used to dream he'd write for me. That night, I scrolled back through my camera roll. Photos of Evan asleep on my chest. Evan holding my hand in waiting rooms. Evan hugging my dad at Christmas. Evan laughing at my burnt pancakes. I had cataloged a love story. But it turned out I wasn't in the final chapter. He had turned the page. And I wasn't even footnoted. I don't know what I was expecting when I saw the post. Maybe a beach, maybe a flower crown, maybe a lyric caption about new beginnings. But I wasn't expecting a ring. Not that fast. Not after everything he said to me. Not after all the "I'm not ready, I just need time." Marriage isn't about a piece of paper to me. There it was, on Violet's finger. Gold, vintage, oval diamond. Exactly the kind of ring he used to say was too traditional. And there he was, on one knee in a blurry screenshot, grinning like the world had finally made sense. The caption on her Instagram read, "He asked." I said yes. Life really does surprise you when you least expect it. I sat in my apartment for hours after seeing it. Phone in my hand, jaw clenched, a slow, strange ache swelling inside my chest like something expanding past the point of repair. It hadn't even been 5 months. Not 5 months since he left. Not 5 months since he told me he needed to be alone. Now he was promising forever to someone who hadn't even seen him at his worst. I didn't cry right away. There's something about pain that's too big for tears. I stared at the wall. I counted every dinner I had cooked for him. Every birthday gift I had handmade when money was tight. Every time I had believed him when he said, "Just wait, I'll know when it's right." Turns out, he did know when it was right. It just wasn't with me. I didn't go looking for more, but social media doesn't ask for permission. Their engagement party was held at the rooftop of a boutique hotel in Soho. Candlelight, acoustic guitar, Polaroid stations. The caption said, "We didn't need years, just the right love at the right time." And that was the dagger, because I gave him years. Years of believing in a man who never planned to choose me. And now I was being reduced to a cautionary tale, the woman who waited too long. The lesson he had to learn before he found what was real. My inbox filled with messages from friends who didn't know what to say. "Are you okay? I saw the post, I'm so sorry. Do you want to talk about it? But what do you say when the person you built your life around builds a new one?" Without flinching. What do you say when someone makes you feel like a warm-up act for a headliner you'll never meet? I took a walk that night. No destination, no headphones, just me and the cold October wind slicing through my coat. I thought about all the little ways I had made myself smaller for him, said okay when I meant, "This hurts." Said I understand when I meant, "I feel forgotten." Said, "Take your time" when I should have asked, "Am I even part of your future?" I thought patience was loyalty. But now I know, sometimes it's just fear wearing a gentle mask, and I was terrified of losing him. Turns out, I lost myself instead. I saw him once, after the proposal. We bumped into each other at a bookstore. Of all places. He looked the same, wore the same leather jacket I bought him on his 30th birthday. He smiled, awkwardly kindly, and said, "Hey, stranger." I nodded. Said, "Congratulations." He looked startled, like he wasn't expecting me to acknowledge it. "Thank you," he said. "It's been a whirlwind." I wanted to ask, did she ask you too? Or did you just know? But I didn't, because I already knew the answer. That night I opened a new journal. On the first page I wrote, "He proposed to her after 4 months. I was never the one, but I was the one who made him ready." And somehow that truth hurt more than any lie he ever told me, because he didn't betray me with cruelty. He betrayed me with closure he never gave me. It took me a long time to realize I wasn't the home, I was the hallway, the holding space, the quiet waiting room he sat in while figuring out where he wanted to go next. And Violet, she was the destination. I was the one he practiced love with. She was the one he promised it to. In therapy, my counselor asked me once, "What would you say to him if you knew he wouldn't interrupt?" I sat there, holding back tears I thought had dried up months ago, and whispered, "I wish you hadn't let me believe you were still deciding, when really you'd already decided, it just wasn't me." Because that's what haunts me. Not that he chose her, but that he let me hope until hope hollowed me out. People love to say, "He just wasn't the one." As if that explains the years, the memories, the sacrifices. As if it erases the part where I spent birthdays alone because he had studio deadlines. Where I read his lyrics before anyone else and gave honest feedback he used in final versions. Where I let him take pieces of me in the name of building something together. And when the foundation was done, he invited someone else to live in the house I helped build. I've stopped asking why her. That question only feeds the pain. She's not better. I'm not worse. She's simply the person he wanted to be for. And I wasn't. That truth used to shred me. Now it just lives quietly inside me, like a healed scar, still visible, still tender when pressed, but no longer bleeding. Healing didn't look like moving on, it looked like moving inward. I stopped stalking their profiles, stopped writing unsent letters, stopped replaying what I could have said differently the night he asked for space. I started going on long walks alone. Started taking pottery classes, started sleeping in the middle of the bed again. And slowly, the noise inside me softened. Do I still think of him? Yes, but not with bitterness, with gratitude. Not because he loved me well, but because losing him taught me to love myself better. If he ever reads this, here's what I hope he knows. You broke me in the quietest way. By not choosing me. And I stayed broken longer than I care to admit. But I put myself back together without anger. Because I finally understand, you weren't the love of my life. You were the lesson. I don't want him back. I don't even want a version of him. What I want now is peace. And the ability to walk past someone who looks like him without flinching. To hear a guitar strum and not think of the first night we kissed. To know that my love was real, even if it wasn't enough. Because real love isn't measured by being chosen. It's measured by how you choose yourself when someone else won't. I was the waiting room. She was the destination. But now I'm building a home. Not for someone else. For me. One where I don't have to be patient for love. Because the next time love comes, it won't need a deadline. It will arrive already ready. Already certain. Just like I've finally become. A few weeks after their wedding photos surfaced online, I deleted all our old pictures. Not out of anger, but because I no longer wanted a museum of what could have been sitting in my pocket. Each image had become a quiet betrayal. A reminder of who I was when I thought I was walking toward forever, when in fact, I was just circling a roundabout, waiting for an exit that wasn't mine. There was one photo I hesitated on. We were on a ferry to Fire Island. Wind in our hair, his arm wrapped around me, laughing at something I'd said. I stared at it for a long time. That photo captured the only version of us that ever really worked. Young, hopeful, untarnished. Then I hit delete. Not to forget, but to release. Grief, I've learned, isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just sitting on the edge of your bed on a Sunday morning, holding your coffee, and realizing you no longer wonder what he's doing. You just breathe. You exist without the ache. You make plans without checking if they conflict with his. You wear the perfume you love, not the one he once called distracting. You begin to belong to yourself again. For a long time I told myself I didn't regret the relationship, that I wouldn't trade those 6 years for anything. But truth? There are things I regret. I regret not asking for more when my heart begged for it. I regret molding myself to fit his needs while ignoring my own. I regret assuming that loyalty meant silence, when what I needed was clarity. I regret giving him the best parts of me in a season he wasn't capable of holding them. But most of all, I regret mistaking potential for promise. Love, I've realized, is not just about staying. It's about showing up wholly, choosing every day even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's hard. And staying without choosing is just another form of absence. He stayed, but he didn't choose me, not really. Not with his future, not with his vows, not with the version of himself he saved for someone else. Someone asked me recently if I hate him now. I don't, in some strange bittersweet way. I hope he's happy. I hope she's the partner I couldn't be. I hope he writes her songs when she's having a bad day, the way he once said he'd write for me and never did. And I hope he looks at her every day with that soft, certain look I once prayed would land on me. Because if he's capable of that kind of love now, then maybe everything I gave wasn't wasted. Maybe I was the scaffolding that helped him stand tall enough to see someone else clearly. It hurts, but it's also okay. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just aware. Aware of how I disappeared inside someone else's dream for so long. I forgot to build one of my own. Now, I've started sketching again. Not for clients. Not for deadlines. For me. I sit by the window in the late afternoon, pencil smudges on my fingers, sun slanting across my kitchen table, and I draw what healing feels like. Sometimes it's a cracked vase with flowers growing out of it. Sometimes it's a girl walking barefoot into the ocean. Sometimes it's just a self-portrait where I finally recognize the woman looking back. I still believe in love, but not the kind you wait for in silence. Not the kind you earn by shrinking. Not the kind you hold your breath around, hoping it'll choose you if you're good enough, quiet enough, patient enough. The love I believe in now, it doesn't arrive late. It doesn't speak in riddles. It doesn't need you to suffer first. It comes with presence. It comes with clarity. It comes when you've already learned to live without it. So no, I wasn't the destination, but I was not a mistake. I was a chapter, a turning point, the reason someone grew. And now, I am no longer the waiting room. I am my own home, and I no longer wait to be chosen. I choose myself. Every single day.